Now, that would be an excellent opportunity for a person that has high emotional intelligence to handle that situation in such a way where it creates a win-win. So initially, a person with less emotional intelligence might react in that situation, right? Their
Yeah.
ego may get in the way. They may start to defend the company, or they may defend this other person who this person is upset with, and that's why they're planning on leaving the company. But a true person that's emotionally mature can take a step back and start to ask some questions, start to regulate themselves and be aware of any kind of internal emotions inside that may be boiling up, and just control those and get at the real source of the problem. What is the concern? To have a dialogue with this individual. And if you keep a rational head, many times you can turn that loss into a win by finding out what is that person's concern. And by digging down, by drilling down, you actually find out that there is a solution, and it doesn't mean the person has to leave the company. So what I'm saying here is that if we take this emotional intelligence and work it to our advantage, and where it comes to helping us run a better company, to be a little more mature when it comes to dealing with our employees or our team members, because it is one big family, a family
Yeah.
away from home, and there's just as much dysfunction in the families at work as we have at home times. So if we can learn to control that emotional power we have inside of us and regulate it in such a way that it keeps our motivation in the right place, I think we're going to come out ahead and actually have a powerful impact on all those people that work for us, because indeed we're setting an example to them on how it is that they need to portray their emotional quotient as well.
Yes. And I'll propose something on the flip side of it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, have you ever worked for a boss that seemed to lead through fear? You were talking about it, one that
Mm,
has a high level of emotional intelligence that can turn something bad into good. What
yes.
about kind of through coercion, through fear, and you're
Mm,
scared of what he's going to say or scared of what he's going to do or she's going to
yeah.
do? I mean,
Intimidated.
it's intimidating. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I was just ask, how does it make you feel? I mean, like you said, intimidated, just on eggshells. It's just not a
Mm-hmm.
good experience. And I
Right.
guess my question on that is, if you're working for something like that, how does that affect your productivity as a worker? Are you going to
Terrible.
be motivated to go and do extra? Are you going to be able to, hard charge? You want to go above and beyond, or you're just happy to, I can sneak in, sneak out, clock in, clock out, do
Well,
what I
what's
need
going
to
to,
do
yeah,
and get?
exactly. Dave, that's exactly what's going to happen. And we've seen that with some of the clients we've worked with over the years. You have a person that's very, very strong, and they intimidate a lot of their employees. And what happens is people just learn to kind of glide around that situation, go back, keep their head down, do what they're supposed to do. But there are oftentimes opportunities where the company could be improved, but because of the fear
Yep.
of being lashed out at for offering a suggestion on how to improve things, that they just end up becoming more of a mediocre participant in your company.
And sometimes I don't blame them, because if you create that environment for them,
Mm-hmm.
then what do you think they're going to do? If you lash out at
Mm-hmm.
people, or you make people intimidated, or you don't give that space when you're in and you're asking for new ideas, for example, in a meeting,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't take two or three people to get beat down a couple of times, figuratively speaking, to say, well, he jumped all over Joe's case or jumped all over Sue's case. I'm not doing that.
Right. I just do enough to get by here.
Doing enough to get by. And in the HR, like instead of having a union contract, or instead of having an employment contract, I call, from an HR perspective, I call this the unholy contract.
Hmm.
Yeah, my idea of the unholy contract when it comes to employment law is this: I'm going to pay you just enough not to quit, and I'm going to work for you just enough not to get
Yeah.
fired, and we're just going to kind of nod head, in the hallway,
Mm-hmm.
just enough to where, you know, I'm not late until I clock in at 7 after, so it's 9:06 when I hit,
Mm-hmm.
and it is 4:57 when I'm out. So that way the Chronos machine doesn't clock me in or out as being late,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to give you just enough. Like I said, that's what I jokingly call the unholy contract. I work for you just enough to not get fired, and you pay me just enough not to quit. It's like the dog sitting on the nail on the front porch. He's howling,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not howling enough to get up and go.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't hurt that bad.
It hurts, but not enough to get up and do something about it. So it's
Mm-hmm.
that, and when you foster that kind of environment, just from a survival standpoint, people need jobs.
That's
And
right.
sometimes it's just, I know what I mean. The devil I know versus the devil I don't know.
That's right. And you know what's going to happen is you're never going to have a premier company a type of company that stands heads and shoulders above your competitors because you've got this mindset that it's starting at the top and works its way down, where people are just putting in the bare minimum, as you mentioned, Dave. And as a result, you are leading at a bare minimum as well.
Yes. And something that I want to throw out to business owners, because this has happened in different organizations before, some I've been with as well. You may not have fostered that type of environment on the top, but you may have a middle manager who's a director or who's a VP or who's somebody in that middle management end of it that, for a division that may create that kind of environment. They do very well at managing up. So you think, hey, everything's going fine. But unless you're able as that CEO to be able to get down and really be able to get the numbers and get the data and get a pulse on things, not necessarily disrespecting the managers and VPs and directors that are, but you've got to be able to get those lines of communication as a CEO, because it's not going to do you any good if you have a leader that's working underneath of you, creating that environment for your employees, and you might not necessarily be aware of it because of the size of the organization.
Right. And that's where a good leader gets out and about, walks around the company, talks to everybody, and just has that dialogue going with everyone in the organization so that there's this free flow of communication. And if there are some concerns that start to pop up, that can be addressed. But if it never gets to the top, if that top person never really understands that these things are going on because he's not aware or she's not aware, well, that's going to be a big problem in that organization.
Correct. A couple of them, you got to want to know the information, and you have to have back channels to get the information, whether it's assessment data, 360s, or employee engagement, anonymous ways to get it, talking to people. I can promise you, if you're the CEO and you just happen to wander in the lunchroom and sit down and everybody's looking at you, i.e. even your boss, hey, Joe, how are things going at the company? What are you going to say? Oh, and you're 16 levels above you. Oh, hey, Mr. So-and-so, or hey, Miss So-and-so, things are going great. Of course you're going to say that. You know what I mean? That's, so sometimes you have to be deliberate about getting the information you need. But all those things create, it's that motivation that is so easy to destroy. But if you as a high performer, or you as a business owner, or you as a leader or a manager or a director or VP, understand your own level of emotional intelligence.